Welcome back. We are here now to talk about listing strategies. And just a reminder, the listing strategies we're going to discuss, they're things to get your brain working. Things that if you haven't considered them, they may help you with your business. By no means is it the definitive word of must do at all times, but good strategies to employ that worked when I was selling, and they work for Todd and his current business. And it is the pulse of a lot of the managers, a lot of the agents that I interview on a regular basis. Just good overall strategy and things to cover.
Sounds good.
Todd, I'm gonna start by kind of interviewing you.
Okay.
So tell me, when is the best time to list? When is the best time to list on a week by week basis if all things were perfect?
Normal. Normal. Man, it's a tough question because you sit and you talk to a client, and I tend to explain what our markets look like, right? So we're slow January, February, we start peaking for the spring market, and then July, August, we're kind of dead again, and then we peak in September again until mid-November, maybe late November, and then we're slow again, and then it all starts over again. So it's a loaded question, like how's the market, right?
Yes.
So when is the best time to list?
I'm going to challenge you. Let's prepare as if we have a 2,000 square foot home in an area where there's currently 20 listings.
Okay.
Month over month, there's 8 sales going on, which sounds pretty good actually, but let's pretend that that's the case.
Okay.
So you've got a little bit of competition, you've got some sales to speak of. If you, in a perfect world, what day of the week would you list on?
With that scenario in play, I like sometimes late Wednesday, usually Thursday.
Now I know the reason why, and a lot of people do, but remind everybody why that is.
Yeah, so let's say Thursday. Let's pick Thursday. Thursday morning is good. You get the property on the market. What it does is I try to create that buzz for the weekend, right?
Okay.
The idea is get the property on the market, have buyer's agents see it, have that pop up in their auto notifications, hour or two to get on Realtor.ca anyways, so now the actual buyers could see it also. So now we've got Thursday happening into Friday, and then you're going to see all your showings happen Friday for the weekend. So it's basically setting the stage up to get all those showings in for the first weekend on the market.
Yes.
You do that on a Monday, I think you just blow the excitement. Then you get showings Wednesday, when you want the showings all weekend. You want everybody who's available, because typically not a lot of buyers are around on a Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning to go see property. So to give them that fighting chance, get it on Thursday morning, and then it's marketed for a day or two, and then you'll get those showings lined up for the whole weekend.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
So
interesting perspective. I agree. What I used to think to myself was on Mondays, if I listed a property Monday morning, for the people that are working with real estate agents and are set up on an auto search, they're going to get that property hit their inbox on Monday. Well, a lot of people get to the office on Monday and they got to put out fires or deal with stuff that happened on the weekend, or Monday's a big day to get projects off the ground and really get working. And there's a better chance that somebody's going to miss that property hitting their inbox on a Monday than opposed to later on in the week, once they've got a feel for the week, they've kind of settled in.
cleaned out their inbox maybe?
Cleaned out their inbox, and now they're prepping for what's going to happen on the weekend with their home search.
Right.
So my take as well was too much going on Monday. You lose the hype. Maybe a few less eyes see your the auto notification email.
Yeah.
So I agree. I always recommended to my sellers that we list on a Wednesday or a Thursday. The other fear was that if I listed on a Friday, a lot of those same people that should be working but are actually looking at their inbox, well, they're not necessarily doing that on Saturday morning.
Right.
So for the general public not working with a realtor, they will not see that the property's hit the market until the day after you actually list it. So if the public gets to see it first on a Saturday, well, their weekend is already in full play. They've already got their plan.
So now let's say we listed it Thursday. What should a buyer's agent have set up for their clients in order for them to get the property right away, though?
Auto notification.
Right? How do we do that? Through Matrix, right?
That's right.
So through Matrix, you can set up your searches, and when you scroll down that email portion and it says, do you want the emails to go out ASAP or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday?
Yes.
What are you recommending for people?
I'm recommending if they're an active buyer as soon as possible.
Right. Same.
Personally, I never, I wouldn't do concierge on my listings unless it was a client that specifically said, I only want to see this type of property and nothing more.
Right.
But for everybody else, I would have it as soon as possible so that they got it immediately.
Right.
But for the people that are set up on a daily search, I would make sure they're getting them on Fridays. I would have it set up for sure that if it's only going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday,
Right.
or they said I want it 3 times a week, I would make sure it hits them on a Friday.
For sure.
Yep.
Yeah, just to capture that for the weekend, right?
Absolutely.
The perfect world is I'd like to see that where you're actually setting your clients up for these notifications with you, not just for you, right? So they don't see it Saturday when you saw it Friday, right? We want them to be a part of it.
Yes.
I know you're big on concierge, and that's a really great tool on Matrix to use, where you can have conversations within Matrix itself with your clients, right?
That's right.
So on each property, you can speak on each property and talk back and forth to see if that's even one they want to see,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So we're now getting into a bit more of the showing part of it, but it certainly alleviates showing 20 houses when really only 8 work for them.
That's right.
So if you can talk to them and dissect each property as they hit, let's call it Thursday morning again, now you're talking Thursday afternoon, Friday morning, lining up what you're going to show your clients for the weekend, and you guys have actually talked back and forth, and you've actually hit on what it is they truly want in a property.
Yep.
Now you're showing them 3 or 4, not 8 or 9, when only 3 or 4 actually work for them.
That's right. Well, and this in lies a listing strategy as well. As properties hit the market and as they sell, I know that you keep your clients up to speed as to who their current competition is,
Right.
who their new competition is, the price reductions that have happened that are going to impact the saleability of their home, along with the homes that are selling. So as far as listing strategy goes, how often are you talking to your clients that you have listings for and updating them on what's happening? Is it daily? Is it as things happen? Is it once a week?
I am the as things happen realtor. I've never been the Sunday evening. When I get the auto notification, and I do set my sellers up so they get the same auto notification emails of new listings popping up when I do. So sometimes they'll be in touch with me before I can be in touch with them because they're getting the same info.
Yes.
So I like to speak on each one as they come. That way we can actually look at pricing now and not wait a week from now. If we said we're going to meet Tuesday and it hits Wednesday, we're not going to wait till the following week to talk about that. Because I want to make sure we're priced properly today, not a week from now.
Yes.
Also because I don't want to forget what I'm doing. So I need to deal with things right away, right? So I think it's a good strategy in my business because you're dealing with it now, right?
Yes.
We can address these issues now.
Yes.
So that's how I've handled it.
How many times have you done a listing presentation and unfortunately had to deliver the bad news that the home wasn't worth what the seller thought it was worth? And maybe you didn't get a listing out of it that time in September. But then we fast forward to February. Do you keep in touch with those people on a regular basis, hoping that when they understand fully what's going on and keeping them apprised that even if the price is going down, so that you're the next guy to get the call, or do you ghost them? How do you do it?
You know.
I do, but I got to ask.
You know. I do 2 things. I set them up on prospects. I do 3 things. I set them up on prospects. So the question is, do you have them on prospects monthly or quarterly? I recommend monthly if you're looking at someone who's potentially going back on the market, right? So now they've got this lovely report that goes out every month. They're also on auto notification through Matrix. So again, the ASAP notifications.
Yes.
And then my printed newsletter, if you know me, you know I preach printed newsletters. And that's got stats and info on Calgary's market too. So by the time 6 months comes up and they think they're ready to list, they have a really good idea of their own micro market, meaning the community they're looking at selling in. They know what that market looks like before I even show up. Right? So they're as almost as up to date as I am. So do you show up to that appointment hoping they know everything? Absolutely not. You do your homework before you get there, right? If it's a full-blown CMA, wonderful. If it's just making sure you know what the current actives are and what the solds have been in the last 30, 90 days. Make sure you know that info before you get there.
Yep.
And when you pull up to that house, if there's a house for sale 2 doors down, make sure you know what that house is listed for or
Yes.
sold for before you walk through that door.
Yes.
Right? And a great way to do that, to pick on prospects, we've all got that prospects app on our phone.
Yep.
The minute you put that, you pull up prospects and you click the InstaView button, if there's a lockbox within that radius, that property is going to hit.
Yes.
So easily we can pull up the info and adjust our settings to see if it's been active or if it's pending under contract or
Yep.
sold, expired, whatever it may be. We can deliver that instantly when we walk through that door, so we don't go, I don't know, I have to check.
Yeah, you look way more polished.
The professional you are speaks to that when you go through the door knowing those numbers.
It could be a home $200,000 inferior or superior,
Yeah.
but they're going to ask. It could be a home that doesn't compare to them whatsoever.
It could be a bang-on comparable that's 40 over list.
Yep.
Like, sorry, not overpriced, right? So
Like the one down the street from you.
like the one down the street from me. We know our numbers, so we know when a house hits, right?
Yes.
But that's just a part of being on top of it and absolutely hammering down that question, how's the market?
So this one is a little tougher question that I'm going to ask you. Tougher, easy for you and me, but tougher to answer when you're in the moment. You walk into somebody's home and you're suggesting ways that you can list it and get it sold. And you have to tell them that their style or their decor or their window coverings or something is going to hinder the sale. You also have to tell them the price and some negative news that it's not what they thought it was worth. Sometimes people have a tendency to tell people a little more of what they want to hear because they're afraid to hurt their feelings. But we're in a position that if we allow them to carry on thinking what they think they know is right, it's actually going to hurt them. How are you in those moments, Todd?
Okay, so and when you're talking, all I hear is fiduciary duties, right? Are we truly working in the best interest of our client by telling them it's worth more than it really is?
Definitely not.
Are we truly working in the best interest of our client by not telling them to take down the family photos and to declutter and clean their house? No, like these are things that the minute you change your mindset from you're going to insult them and you're going to hurt them and they're not going to like my price to, well, how do I help these people sell their house? The way you help them is you represent them fully, right? You need to remember you're having their best interest at heart. So how do you do that? You have to educate them on decluttering and staging their house and the furniture maybe not match.
Yes.
Price, it's the same thing. I'm doing you no favor, Mr. Seller, if I list it for $40,000 above market value, because what's going to happen is you're going to turn around and say, come to me and say, why isn't my house selling?
Yes.
Right? You're going to get mad at me for that, and I'm going to tell you, well, you should have read the article I have in my seller's presentation about the problems with overpricing your house.
Yes. Yep.
So we need to price it properly in the first place to get it sold. So you're truly helping your client by giving them real numbers and not overlisting the property.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
You can spin that into also, if you're just going to buckle on their price, how are you going to be with negotiating elsewhere? So
100%.
you're negotiating with your own seller on how to list their house. You're not fighting with them. You're setting the price in their best interest, correct?
Yep.
So you can spin that and say, listen, we need to price it properly now. And when it's down the road to negotiate, how do you think I'm going to act on your behalf at that point? Because I'm trying to protect you now. I'm going to fight for you then, too, to get you the best dollar when it comes time with an offer.
Yes.
Right? So these little things you can plug into that little presentation as to what else you're going to do for the client.
So how important is it to have this discussion in person versus, I saw the home today, we had a good discussion, and now I'm back in my office, I've done a CMA because I've seen it now, and I have to deliver some bad news. How important is it to have that discussion in person versus via email or on the phone?
It's paramount. In my opinion, you
Yes.
need to have that conversation in person. Get your butt in your car, drive to your client wherever they are, wherever they want to meet, get there. You've done the presentation at the property. Ideally, you're meeting them back at the property or in one of our offices. We can all book our office. So if you want to do that too. But presenting bad news, not great news,
Yep.
over email or text, definitely not the best way to go, because they don't know what to do with that. They need a discussion. They need an advisor, right?
Yep.
They need you as their agent to talk them through how you came up with what you came up with.
Yes.
Right? So it's
Yep.
not as easy as just typing, your house is now worth this, not this.
Yep.
Do you want a list? Where's that going to get you, right?
Yes.
If we go back to our ninja values of providing value, is that providing value, sending an email, getting back to your program you're watching?
Definitely not. I've heard many, many success stories about agents that have delivered the news in person, and even though it wasn't the news that the seller wanted, it's actually ended up with them getting the listing either then because the seller is in a position where they need to sell, or three months, 6 months, 9 months down the
Right.
road. They're the agent that gets hired because they didn't just go away from the uncomfortable. They deliver the
That's
news
right.
with confidence because you are the professional. You may have been in their home twice, but your numbers, your stats, and your experience doesn't lie. And you need to be the confident professional that knows what you're doing and you can stand behind it.
Yeah. Let's speak on rapport. If this is someone you don't have a past business relationship with and they're just starting to get to know you, rapport is much better built in person, right?
Yes.
So if they're not ready to list today, but they're ready to list 6 months from now or a year from now, and you've been that agent that's popped by
Yep.
2, 3, 4 times in a year to update them with good or bad news, you're the one they remember. You're the one that showed up,
Yep.
right? You're
Yep.
the one that is creating that rapport, and it's not just with the husband or the wife.
That's right.
When there's kids involved, guess who you're creating rapport with, and guess what mom and dads love when you walk through the door.
Yeah. When the kids know you.
Like I shouldn't give my secrets, but this happened this year, and it was a past client. However, I walked through for an initial meeting, and I noticed the 4-year-old boy loves Lego. He's in his bedroom playing Lego. So a week later, I show up again to do my actual CMA presentation, and I had brought the little guy a Lego kit to build.
Yep.
So one, it keeps him out of our way,
Yep.
and if I came to your house and brought your kids Lego to play with while we're doing a business meeting, how do you perceive me? You love me at that point, right?
Definitely.
So
You're perceptive.
it's
Yep.
not just the husband and wife we got to remember that we're trying to build rapport with. It's the kids too.
Yes.
Right? That's important. And the minute you get the kids on board with you, then the parents trust you that much more.
Yep.
It's that know, like, and
Absolutely.
trust you, right? So remember the know, like, and trust piece of it.
Yep.
Show up in person.
One of the listing strategies that I used to employ when I was selling was that I would list the property on a Wednesday or Thursday, and I would book an open house that I would host usually that weekend or the following weekend, depending on the timing. And I would do that because it was my opinion that if a buyer walked in the property on the day I listed it or the next day, that the fear of that open house selling the home would take over
Right.
that eager buyer's mind and make them pull the trigger faster.
Right.
Because how many times have you been with a first-time buyer showing them properties and they look to each other, whether it's a couple or they look at you as the realtor and they say, there's an open house this weekend.
Gotta go.
I don't know, should we buy this one, right?
It might go. There's been a lot of traffic.
That's right. So
Yeah.
the fear of the open house can sometimes be the advantage that you need to get that buyer to pull the trigger.
That's right. Creates that urgency you're looking for, right?
It does. So one of the strategies that I used to do when I was doing listings was create the expectation with my seller that we're going to do an open house, either the first weekend, second weekend, or even both, and for that exact reason. And the seller really likes it because when I'm telling this to them during the listing presentation, they see that I have a marketing plan in mind.
Right.
Not just do what it takes to get the listing, but I've got an actual plan in mind. My listing presentation included a pre-planned price reduction in the event that the seller had unrealistic expectations.
Right.
Now, I turned away listings in my career because of unrealistic expectations. However, if I had somebody that I thought, I studied all the parameters and I thought, there's a really high likelihood they're going to have to do a reduction because they do need to get it sold, I would tell them that point blank. I do think you're overpriced. I am willing to work with you and I want to help you, but we need to pre-plan a price reduction for the event that we don't get the activity that we want based on the situation you've described to me. Because we do become counselors. We do become
100%.
partially, the people that help them through this difficult time when they have to sell, and it is what it is.
So let's talk on overpricing by say $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. Accepting that listing, a good time to accept that versus a bad time to accept that. Would you agree that we're in a scenario where they've already bought a brand new build, they have to sell the property, but they want to get top dollar out of it? So maybe that's the listing you take overpriced, knowing there's a real motivation there to get it sold quicker.
Yep.
Versus the seller that just says, well, the market's good for selling, so we're just going to try it. We're not in a rush to sell,
Right.
but we're just going to test the market and see how this goes.
Right.
Are you prepared to spend your thousands on marketing for someone who isn't quite sure what they're willing to do, right?
Right.
So there's a time and a place to actually take something that's overpriced, I think.
And what we've seen lately is an increase of people charging a retainer.
Yes.
And there was probably about 3 or 4 episodes ago, we actually discussed the wording. All the managers have the exact wording that should be used in these scenarios, and I believe it's also on our virtual office. And we've seen a huge uptick in people charging a retainer in the event that the seller wants to list for quite a bit higher.
So retainer versus having it built in for reasonable expenses incurred if it's canceled during term of listing?
That's right.
You're seeing more retainers even?
Both.
Okay.
Both. We're seeing more of this is the fee, and once we sell it, that's going to come off the commissions we're charging.
Right.
Versus I'm going to incur all the expenses, and if it doesn't sell, it doesn't sell, I'm out the money. We're seeing a big uptick in people that are hedging their bets for that reason.
Right.
And unfortunately, some sellers are in the position where they just can't sell. And maybe it's, I used to have the discussion with the sellers. I actually recommend you don't sell. Way too much competition, the sales are not in your favor, you don't have to sell. Think about what it's going to cost you to carry the new property under a higher interest rate. They're all different things. But the beautiful thing is that listing will come back around when the time is right, as long as you care for the people as if they were your own.
Correct. As long as you're truly acting in their best interest, the business will come back to you.
That's right.
Fair.
Now we're going on pretty good for time for this, so I think we should jump on to the next topic, which is should I open house on a long weekend? So this one is going to spark a debate, that's for sure.
I'd love to read the remarks later on the side chat to see who says what.
And I hope that you are commenting as we go on this.
Please comment on this one.
I expect there to be people that will challenge anything we say because they've experienced otherwise.
100%.
And like we said, this isn't the definitive word. Would you do an open house on the first long weekend of beautiful weather?
No.
Why not?
There's 2 reasons for why I wouldn't. One is because I believe anybody looking for houses probably aren't going to go to it on a long weekend that's gorgeous weather.
Okay. First, is it pent up, want to be outside anxiety? Is it?
So lately, it's been raining a lot. That's no secret. Now you put in an open house over August long, which is relevant to coming up next week, actually. If it's going to be plus 27, blue skies, no clouds, sunny all weekend, are people in town doing open houses, looking at open houses, or are they away in their trailers?
Right.
Right? So the sidebar chat will probably be saying right now, well, I do them and I sell houses on long weekends.
Yes.
And that's real and it happens.
Yes.
So to say don't do it on a long weekend, I don't think is fair because a lot of people do them and they do collect their buyers from that and they do sell the homes.
Yes.
You asked if I would.
Yes. Now let me change it up on you.
Yeah.
Property was listed on the Wednesday of that week. There is very little competition. Maybe the last few sales have supported our asking price, and there's not a lot of competitors. Now, are we doing the open house on that long weekend?
So now we are.
Yes.
Right? Different scenario.
And why is that? Supply and demand?
Supply and demand. I think at that point, if you have And if you've done all your homework with your seller and made their property look as great as you can make it, so people are walking through the door and it truly looks like the photos that you've represented the property with, it's going to sell. Priced right, shows well, it's going to sell quickly.
Yes.
So the people, you could look at it and say the people that are actually out on long weekends looking at houses and looking at open houses, those are serious buyers.
Yes.
Right? So there may be less people through the door, but those are the ones that are seriously looking and not just the neighbors coming by.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So yes, I would do it on a long weekend for the right property.
Yes.
I think we forget that it's not our question to answer.
Right.
This is a question for our sellers to answer also.
Right.
Right? So we can educate them and say everything we've just talked about and let them know the traffic may be slower, but there may be serious people coming through your door. And see what they say.
Right.
Right? We often forget in this business that a lot of these decisions aren't ours to make. Like we get stuck and you and I get these calls with questions and I often turn it back onto a realtor and say, well, this gets easy for you because it's not your decision to make.
Right.
Right? You need to spell this out to your client and let them decide.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So we don't have to be the one that makes all these hard decisions. We have to be the one that represents the person that makes these decisions. So even in an open house, you let them know what's going to happen. There may not be a lot of traffic. Maybe it's a big inconvenience for them to get out.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Newborn baby. Maybe they just had a baby 3 weeks ago.
Great perspective.
Should you do an open house on a long weekend now? Probably not.
Right. Yep.
The mood's going to change with your client at that point, right?
Yep. Long weekend in April, May, probably doing those open houses, even though it's a long weekend. Agreed?
Yep.
Yep.
Coming up, I'm sure there'll be a ton of agents doing open houses this weekend, though.
Yes.
And that's a great thing, right?
Yep.
There's a great reason to do it.
Well, good discussion we had with Chloe McCara is she basically suggested as well that when agents are going to do an open house on a whatever day, whatever long weekend, maybe reach out to the other open houses, the other listings in the area, and try to get a communal open house going. Now, agents like Melissa Cost, she organizes super open house tours, where she gets 20 open houses to all agree to commit to one day.
Right.
They figure out ways to advertise it, low-costing ways that make great sense. And they have sold homes on those open house tours, which is just beautiful.
Yeah, I've been a part of one of hers.
Myself as well. It's very collaborative and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I mean, Chloe's got a good idea, and that's why don't you call up 4 or 5 that are in the area and try to drum up a bunch of people to do them as well, whether it's on a long weekend or not. But I mean, on long weekends, especially in areas where there's not a tremendous amount of listings, you could create a nice little buzz, and it could lead to a home getting sold or lead to some more buyers coming in.
100%.
Right?
I experienced one quickly. I had a listing in Tuxedo a couple years ago, and right across the street was another infill listing. And that agent called me up and was wondering how my showing traffic was. So we talked about that. We kind of swapped information. And then I told him I was going to be doing an open house, and he said, why don't we do it together? So we actually planned it together to do an open house the exact same times on a Saturday, and we agreed to funnel traffic to each other's listings.
Nice.
Yeah, so as much as they were infills that were similar properties, they were different homes.
Right.
So we could see each other's houses, and we actually would send traffic to the other one.
Yep.
So there was none of, they walked through my door and wished they could go see that one. They actually could.
Yep.
Right? So it was really great to collaborate with another agent from actually another brokerage at that point to just share traffic.
Yep.
And it worked amazing.
That's ninja.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yep. True go-giver. I might not be able to help you here, but you should really go check out this property and vice versa.
Yeah.
How good do you feel in that environment?
That was amazing. Yeah.
And that good feeling and good vibes translates into the people coming through.
Yeah.
And all they have is positive vibes about the agents they encountered.
That's right.
And even if the properties don't work for them, right? They're walking out feeling better and really good about real estate agents.
And I wasn't worried about sending someone to his listing that they may buy his over mine, because they're going to see it anyways.
Yes.
Right? They're just going to go.
Yep.
So why not make it convenient and open the doors and let them see both at the same time?
Yep.
So it worked great.
One more idea that if you're going to do an open house on a long weekend, let's pretend it's Canada Day. Let's pretend it's some sort of a festive long weekend.
Yep.
Celebrate it. Do something big for that
Absolutely.
event so that when people come in, they're wrapped up in the celebration as well.
Yep.
It makes it fun. It makes it memorable. And there's a good chance you're going to stand out in that buyer or future seller in the community's mind.
Yeah.
And maybe that's going to be the difference between you getting that next client or even selling that home.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Make it good.
Yeah.
We should
Great.
break for our last transition and then get back into our last segment, which is forgive yourself. You don't have to be on 24/7.